things and acted abhorrently during this investigation and tried to undercut the rule of law. We know at least we can have confidence that the President of the United States did not collude with Vladimir Putin and Russia, right? Good news.
The good news is that the process in place with this investigation continued to the end. The report was written. It made on collusion clear judgments that I think we're all understanding, that by the standard that he made, there was not a conspiracy to collude with the Russians who were running this operation. And your larger point, this investigation, so fragile, so vulnerable through the whole period, as Trump fulminated, threatened, announced, proceeded to the end. That Trump was pulled back time and again from things he apparently was considering doing.
And by the way, can we add to that list not only Robert Mueller and at times Rod Rosenstein, but let's add Matthew Whitaker to that list as well. Poor Matthew Whitaker, we all beat the hell out of him, but at the same time, he was pressured by Donald Trump, and he resisted the pressure.
The process went to the end, but as we've all been saying around this table, we now enter a period of understanding what the report itself said and what the implications are for Congress, because clearly Mueller was passing certain issues along. Yes, to Attorney General Barr, who's already given his opinion, but beyond that to Congress, and you could say to the public.
And Congress is next. It'll be interesting to see how the House Oversight Committee now takes its questioning and who they bring in and exactly what angle they take on this. Yeah. We don't know what's in this report. I think we need to frame that again. No one has seen it beyond the Attorney General and Robert Mueller himself, and the President has been given the Attorney General's interpretation of it. A New York Times editorial is entitled "No Collusion, No Exoneration," and it reads in part this: Mr. Barr did exactly as Mr. Trump hoped he would, but there's a reason obstructing justice is a crime on its own. The justice system doesn't work when people to authorities, no matter why they do so. Mr. Barr's curious views on obstruction are just one reason that Mr. Mueller's full report must be made available immediately to both Congress and the American people. Mr. Putin did have a clear favorite. He interfered on his behalf, and his favorite was elected president. Trump campaign officials knew about this and were more than happy for the help. Then they lied about receiving that help. This isn't so complicated. And while Mr. Mueller may not be able to do anything about it, Congress and the American people certainly can.
Which
Congress is next.
Yeah, which, again, Michael, this leads to the question I asked yesterday. Okay, so fine. There is no legally defined actions that add up to collusion or conspiracy. But the question remains, why did Donald Trump lie about his contacts with Russia? Why did the Vice President lie about his contacts with Russia? Why did the Attorney General lie about his contacts with Russia? Why did Donald Trump's first national security advisor lie about his contacts with Russia? Why did you also have a guy that Donald Trump said was told the Washington Post was one of his top foreign policy advisors? Why did he lie? Why did Jared Kushner lie about contacts he had with Russia in his disclosure forms? You could go on and on. A lot of people sitting in jail because of their lies about contacts with Russians, including Michael Cohen, who's going to be going to jail because he, too, like everybody else around Donald Trump, lied. And, of course, why did Donald Trump call everybody together on Air Force One and dictate a message, a statement to the New York Times that lied about his son's contact with Russia?
And do you know who has not had to answer any questions about that in the entire thing? Was Trump. So how is it that this whole thing was done and Trump has not had to answer any questions under oath about why he took the actions that he had? The reason is that his lawyers determined that if he went in, he would lie. So because of that, Mueller never apparently sought a subpoena because Barr said in his letter on Friday that Mueller never tried to take actions that he was stopped from taking. We know of no subpoena that was actually served on the president. But because his lawyers thought he would lie, he didn't go in for an interview. They are the ones that stopped him. He was the one that wanted to go in and do that. But this thing was concluded, and he didn't have to explain anything.
Right.
I understand why legally that may not have happened, and it's hard to subpoena the president, and there's real difficulties in that. But if you're the average person and you're looking at this, you're saying, hold on a second. They looked at all these things about this guy's intent, and he didn't have to answer any questions about it, and they never subpoenaed him? That's not a satisfying answer. I understand it legally, you know, but that's not satisfying.
And Joe, your list of questions sounds very damning. It's all facts. Every question you just posed has a factual predicate. And on top of that, we also learned last night in this letter, there were other actions by Trump that Mueller analyzed as potential obstruction that have, to this morning, have not been disclosed. And Barr, who is nothing if not a skilled lawyer, felt the need to cover himself.
Right.
He felt the need to volunteer the fact that Mueller has those other disclosures that we haven't heard yet and that he's not putting out yet because Barr wanted to close that letter by trying to close the door on the Mueller report before it's been read. That's an important thing. History, the Congress will judge how Barr is doing this. But he felt the need to say, in addition to everything else that Joe Scarborough just mentioned, because we know it as public of lies and questions, and some of them are crimes, there's other stuff in there, and he didn't release it yet. And that is added to another fact. If people are watching this and saying, okay, no chargeable collusion, but some of this seems like, well, what was the point of it all? Donald Trump had 6 advisors indicted 2 years into his presidency, more than any other president in American history. That's also from the Mueller probe. So if the results of this probe all came down this weekend after 22 months, people would be gobsmacked. We'd be under the table. But some of it has been parceled out, and the no chargeable collusion comes at the end, and that obviously, as you've credited, does make a difference. So there's a lot of open questions that are here that Barr obviously felt the need to acknowledge exist, while he rushes to say he's decided, not the Congress, that he has a view of obstruction.
Well, I've heard a lot of people talk about the drip, drip, drip of these indictments of Trump advisors over the months and even the years. I think we're now going to see that moving forward with information coming out from the Mueller report.
Yeah.
Going to hold it, and then we'll get a little bit here, a little bit there over the next few years. Unless
there's a different way. I don't know if Congress can act to get more, or the House Oversight Committee. We'll have more questions on that. Ari Melber, I'd say go to bed, but apparently you've got to continue to work. We'll be watching you on the beat.
I may
nap. Okay.
And we may have